Hello, Namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Is Imran Khan dead or alive? After more than a month, the speculation is over, but the protests on Pakistan's streets are not ending. We'll decode the chaos and how it marks a turning point in the country. In the east, it's China versus Japan. Today, there was a military face-off in the East China Sea. We look at why the tensions are spilling into open waters. Also in focus, did Pakistan send expired aid to Sri Lanka? Why did their High Commission delete the post after they were called out? Did Donald Trump tell Nicolas Maduro to resign and take a safe passage out? We'll tell you what a new report says. What's behind Prime Minister Modi's outreach to Khalida Zia's family? What does it mean for the Delhi-Dhaka equation? Is AI taking away your salary hike? We break down the numbers and the trend. What the debate around India's new security app is. Is it a tool for safety or a platform for surveillance? What's the Aravali mining row? What's at stake in one of India's most sensitive ecological zones? Why has the World Health Organization backed weight loss drugs to fight obesity? It's a medical shift with massive global implications. And Samsung launches a new multi-folding phone. Is it innovation or more of the same? All this and more lined up. The headlines first. In India, the rupee falls to a new record low of 89.95 against the US dollar. The currency has stayed under pressure despite strong economic growth in India. The Sensex also sank by more than 500 points today. India's benchmark indices traded in the red today as the stock market fell for a third straight session. Donald Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff will meet Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow shortly. Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner will also be present. The high-stakes talks aim to end the war in Ukraine, which began in 2022. The US says it's very optimistic about ending Europe's bloodiest conflict since the Second World War. China accuses Britain's Prime Minister of making quote-unquote groundless accusations. It comes after Keir Starmer's warning that Beijing posed a national security threat. Relations between the two countries have been strained amid accusations of spying and tensions over Hong Kong. Despite this, London is keen to reset ties with Beijing. An Iranian court demands that the US pay $22 billion. The court says Washington backed the mass protests in 2022, which broke out after the custodial death of Masha Amini. Hundreds of people were killed in this unrest. The US had announced new sanctions over Iran's response to the protests. And a shocker from the Tanzanian president. She has justified the killing of protesters during the recent election unrest. The president says it was necessary and done to prevent the government from being overthrown. More than 1,000 people were killed in this protest. Is Imran Khan still alive? This question rocked Pakistan last week. It triggered massive protests and online campaigns, and today we have the answer. Imran Khan is still alive, yet the protests and campaigns continue. And it's shaping up to be a crucial moment in Pakistan's politics, a moment that could define the country for years. First, let me tell you what happened today. Imran Khan's party had big plans. That's the PTI, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, that's what the party is called. They organized protests in two places, outside the High Court in Islamabad and outside the Adiala jail in Rawalpindi. This is the jail where Imran Khan is being held, the Adiala jail. Now, dozens of PTI workers turned up in both places and they chanted slogans against the government. Take a look at this.
कौन बचाएगा पाकिस्तान? आजादी सोच लिया तो आजादी डंडा के साथ आजादी ललकार के बोलो आजादी ललकार के बोलो आजादी इमरान को इंसाफ दो इंसाफ दो इंसाफ दो
extensions.
Things remain calm today, but Pakistan's government was prepared for the worst. They imposed a curfew in Islamabad and Rawalpindi. Extra security forces were also called in. In Rawalpindi, some 2,000 officers were on the streets. They had banned all gatherings and protests. Yet dozens of people turned up. And it wasn't just the rank and file of Imran Khan's party. PTI lawmakers from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa were also in the fray. You see, this province, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, or KP as it's called, is ruled by Imran Khan's party. And its chief minister is a man called Sohail Afridi. Afridi is a key face of this protest. He has visited Islamabad and Rawalpindi multiple times, and yesterday he asked his lawmakers to join the protests in the capital. So this is not just a government versus party conflict. There is state machinery on both sides. And the Pakistani government knows this. Today they gave in to the PTI's demand. Imran Khan's 3 sisters came to Adiala jail. They demanded to see their brother, the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan. They wanted to see him. And this was important because nobody has seen Imran Khan since October 27th. That was his last visitation day, October 27, more than a month ago. This prolonged gap led to speculation on social media. His supporters raised a host of questions. Was Imran Khan still alive? Had he been tortured in prison? Why the reluctance to let him meet his family? All these worries spilled over onto the streets. Hundreds of PTI supporters protested across Pakistani cities, and today the pressure worked. The jail authorities allowed Imran Khan's family to meet him. Only one person was permitted to go in, and that was his sister, Uzma Khanum. She went in, she met Imran Khan, and she returned. Uzma Khanum says Imran Khan is fit and fine, but she said that he was being mentally tortured. And for this, she blamed Army Chief Asim Munir.
सेहत अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह ठीक है, मगर ज़हनी वो उन्होंने बड़े गुस्से में थे, कहते हैं कि हमें ये मेंटल टॉर्चर कर रहे हैं और सारा दिन कमरे में बंद, थोड़ा सा बाहर जो निकल सकते हैं, कोई किसी से कम्युनिकेशन नहीं, कहते हैं कि आसिम मुनीर जिम्मेदार है, ये सब कुछ हो रहा है.
So Imran Khan is certainly alive. We have confirmation after 29 days. But this standoff is far from over. In fact, it's only building up. The Pakistan army is dealing with a new sort of challenge here. They're dealing with a leader who refuses to fall in line, a leader who refuses to surrender or flee. And frankly, it's off-brand for Imran Khan because this is a man who was steeped in corruption. He targeted his rivals. He stole public wealth. But suddenly he's got a spine. So the Pakistani government is trying to break him. They have filed some 150 cases against Imran Khan. Currently, he's serving a 14-year sentence for corruption. The idea is to break his resolve, to pile on the cases, to target his family, to jail his wife, refuse visitation rights. All of it is aimed at forcing him to give up. Which brings us to the other side. Imran Khan's party desperately needed a boost. In recent months, Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir has accumulated more power. He is the de facto head of Pakistan now. No checks, no balances, no limits. Munir will likely use this power to shut out Imran Khan. He has created a new court above the Pakistani Supreme Court. And this court will dance to Munir's tunes. So this moment is make or break for Imran Khan. And his party is trying everything to mobilize people, to hit the streets and put pressure on the government. Today, the government avoided that situation. They allowed Imran Khan's family to see him. Now the ball is in the PTI's court. Do they continue the movement? Do they take on the government and the army, or do they call it a win and go home? That decision could reshape Pakistan's immediate future. China and Japan are facing off. It's been more than a month now. They've been locked in a tense standoff, and now the dispute has escalated. It has spilled into the high seas. The latest episode played out today in the East China Sea. It was near a cluster of disputed islands. Japan calls them the Senkaku Islands. China calls them Diaoyu. Now, both countries take claim to this group of islands. Today, a Japanese fishing vessel was operating in this area. 2 Chinese Coast Guard ships moved in. Tokyo says they crossed into Japanese waters and tried to confront the Japanese fishing boat. So Japan's Coast Guard responded immediately. It intercepted the Chinese vessels and escorted them out of the area. Now look at the region where it happened. This is where the military face-off took place. The Senkakus are a group of islands. No civilian population lives there, but they have been at the center of a long-running dispute. Because, like I said, China claims these islands too. Beijing calls them the Diaoyu Islands. But why does China want these islands? Why do they matter? Because of their location. These islands sit close to major shipping lanes. They offer rich fishing grounds, and the waters around them are considered valuable. Experts believe that they hold oil and gas reserves, and that is why China sends Coast Guard ships to these waters. It's a way to project power and to remind Tokyo that Beijing won't give up its claim. And how has China responded to this morning's events? Unsurprisingly, they have blamed Japan. Beijing says it was Japan that provoked the Chinese Coast Guard.
The current situation in China-Japan relations is entirely caused by Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi's erroneous remarks over Taiwan. Japan should abide by its political commitments to China, retract its erroneous remarks, and reflect and correct with concrete actions. Any external force that dares to interfere in Taiwan-related matters will be met with resolute countermeasures. The DPP authorities harbor malicious intentions, which are contemptible. Their attempts to seek independence by relying on foreign forces are doomed to fail.
This is a clear military escalation, and it's happening at a time when Japan-China ties are spiraling. We've been telling you about this. Last month, Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi gave a statement in her parliament. She said if China attacked Taiwan, Japan will take military action.
If China were to deploy battleships and involve the use of force, I believe this could be deemed a situation threatening Japan's survival.
China was furious by that statement. It said Prime Minister Takaichi must take her words back. But she has refused to do so. An angry Beijing then launched a diplomatic offensive. It issued a travel advisory against Japan. It told Chinese citizens to avoid traveling to Japan. It told Chinese airlines to avoid flying to Japan. Tens of thousands of people cancelled their tickets. This has hit Japan's tourism sector. So far, more than 900 flights have been cancelled. Reports say China has asked its airlines to extend these cuts. They could last until March next year. China also took the matter to the United Nations. It lodged a formal protest against Japan, and then Xi Jinping took it to Donald Trump's doorstep. Last month, he had a phone call. Chinese President Xi Jinping and US President Donald Trump, they spoke on the phone. And that's when Xi brought up this spat with Japan. Now, it's not clear what he told Donald Trump, but we can tell you what followed. Right after speaking to Xi, Trump dialed Tokyo. He spoke to Prime Minister Takaichi. Reports say he asked the Japanese leader to avoid further escalation with China. But Prime Minister Takaichi has not backed down. She has shown no signs of yielding to Chinese pressure. And it's proving to be quite good for her ratings. Her tough stand on Taiwan has won her a lot of support at home. Her approval ratings have touched a high of 75%. So in a way, China's diplomatic campaign has backfired. It was aimed to soften Japan's stand on Taiwan, but it has achieved the opposite, which is why China seems to be raising the stakes now. It is deploying its military to make a point. Last week, it issued a warning to Tokyo.
The People's Liberation Army has powerful capabilities and reliable means to defeat any invading enemy. If the Japanese side dares to cross the line even half a step and bring trouble upon itself, it will inevitably pay a painful price.
The tensions are spilling over from diplomatic spats to military encounters, and Taiwan believes it will only get worse. Taiwan's foreign minister has spoken. His name is Lin Chia-lung. He says it could take up to a year for the situation to stabilize. That means China will keep exerting pressure and there will be more flashpoints. This is a dangerous trend. So far, Japan has held its ground. It has pushed back against Chinese pressure. But now with Beijing resorting to military tactics, it's a test of how far Tokyo is willing to go. To South Asia now. Sri Lanka has been fighting one of its worst natural disasters in years. It's been hit by a cyclone, Cyclone Ditwah. Floods have swallowed entire neighborhoods. Landslides have swept through villages. More than 400 people have been killed. Hundreds are still stranded on rooftops. The island nation needs help, and it needs help desperately. At a time like this, you would depend on your neighborhood, on nations to come together with relief and aid. And they did come through. India, as always, was the first responder. India sent aid and rescue teams to Sri Lanka. Nepal has announced $200,000 in aid. Bangladesh is sending relief. And then we have Pakistan. Pakistan, too, shipped aid to Sri Lanka. The High Commission clicked photos of what they were giving, and it posted these photos online with hearts and flags. The caption said, "Always standing together." But then came the plot twist. The pictures uploaded by the Pakistani High Commission showed bags of aid. The internet zoomed in, and here's what they found. Written on one bag, EXP 2024. EXP stands for expiry. 2024 was last year, which means the bag of aid expired last year. So did Pakistan send an expired bag of aid to Sri Lanka? That's the question the internet is asking. And I wouldn't blame Pakistan much here. With their battered economy and an army general consolidating power, they may not even realize what year it is. Maybe they thought it's the early 2000s. But it did not escape the internet's wrath. And then came the fun part. Islamabad said nothing about this. Sri Lanka did not comment either. But here's what the Pakistani High Commission did. They deleted the post. The post that drew so much scrutiny, the post that made headlines, instead of issuing a clarification, they just deleted it. And then to deflect criticism, they trained their guns on India. They said India was blocking their aid flight. It's a classic Uno reverse. When fingers are pointed at Pakistan, they invariably turn to India. According to Pakistan's Foreign Office, India had been, quote-unquote, delaying permission. Permission for what? For its aid flight to pass through Indian airspace. And they say this delay is hampering Pakistan's relief mission. This is Islamabad's POV. Of course, India had none of it. The Ministry of External Affairs exposed them again. They publicly laid out the facts, or like Gen Z would say it, they dropped the receipts. Pakistan requested an overflight at 1 p.m. India granted clearance at 5:30 p.m. The entire process took less than 5 hours, which is unusually fast for diplomatic aviation. New Delhi called Pakistani media claims baseless, misleading, and fake. And while Islamabad was busy blaming India, India was busy helping Sri Lanka. New Delhi launched Operation Sagar Bandhu. It moved 53 tons of relief supplies to Sri Lanka. INS Vikrant sent helicopters for rescue. INS Sukanya reached Trincomalee with tons of relief. Chetak and Mi-17 helicopters rescued stranded civilians. NDRF teams were deployed for search and rescue. That's the National Disaster Relief Force, NDRF. Indians, Sri Lankans, Germans, Slovenians, South Africans, everyone was rescued. India was in action mode, not accusation mode, which made Islamabad's complaint even more awkward. So did Pakistan really send expired aid? Well, here's the only honest answer. It looks like it. The photo says yes. Maybe it was mislabeled. Maybe it applied only to one item. Maybe someone did not check the boxes. Or maybe it was exactly what it looked like. And that's what makes this entire episode so damning. Because the aid was not the story. The deletion was the story. The deflection was the story. The blaming India part was the story. Pakistan truly showed us that even in the middle of a natural disaster, they can create a man-made one. Our next story takes us to the Caribbean, to a showdown that is getting more serious by the day. We've been telling you how tensions have been rising between the US and Venezuela, how American warships have moved into the Caribbean, how strikes have been carried out against alleged drug boats, how several people have been killed, and how the entire region has been on edge for weeks. Tonight, there's a new layer to the story, and it comes from inside the White House. There are new reports emerging. They say the US has offered the Venezuelan president a way out. The Venezuelan president is Nicolas Maduro. The US has offered him a safe exit, a guaranteed passage out of his own country. And the offer did not come through diplomats. It came from US President Donald Trump himself. When? In a phone call late last month. Reports say the call lasted less than 15 minutes, and in that call, Donald Trump made the offer. He told Maduro to leave immediately and that the US would ensure his safe passage. The passage was also offered for Maduro's wife and son. But why would the US make such an offer, and in what capacity? As the regional hegemon, Washington believes it can decide who should be in power in which country. And from Washington's point of view, Maduro should not be in power at all. They've linked him to drug trafficking. They say drug shipments are leaving Venezuela and ending up in the United States. Of course, Venezuela denies this, but it doesn't matter now. This accusation is what started the current crisis, and the pressure has been building up for months. Finally, the Americans made their objective clear. It was never about drugs. It was always about regime change. They want Maduro out, and they told him as much. And how did Maduro respond to the offer? Well, he refused to step down immediately. Instead, he made his own list of demands to the American president. Apparently, Maduro asked for worldwide immunity from prosecution. He also asked for removal of all US sanctions against him, and also sanctions against more than 100 Venezuelan government officials. They've all been accused by the United States of human rights abuses, drug trafficking, or corruption. Maduro even asked for an interim government led by his vice president. And that brings us to the crucial turning point. Donald Trump rejected most of Maduro's demands. He gave Maduro 1 week to leave Venezuela. That 1 week deadline passed on Friday. Do you know what happened then? On Saturday, Trump made a declaration. He said the airspace above and around Venezuela was, quote unquote, closed in its entirety. The American president gave no further details, and that has rattled Venezuela. Because this warning came at a very significant moment. The US military has been closing in. The world's largest aircraft carrier is in the Caribbean. It is surrounded by warships. It is supported by US Marines. Aircraft have been delivering supplies into Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico hosts key US military facilities in the region. So this does not look like a routine operation. It looks like a preparation. Right after Trump's deadline expired, he called his top national security advisors to the Oval Office. They held a closed-door meeting. They discussed Venezuela, what comes next in Venezuela. That's what they talked about. And the White House has confirmed this meeting, although they said nothing about the decisions that they made. And while Washington was deciding its next step, Caracas was sending its own message. Nicolas Maduro held a large rally in the Venezuelan capital of Caracas. He accused the US of, quote-unquote, psychological terrorism. He said Venezuela would not accept a slave's peace.
We have lived through 22 weeks of an aggression that can be described as psychological terrorism. These 22 weeks have put us to the test, and the people of Venezuela have shown their love for the homeland. If 22 weeks ago we loved Venezuela, today we love her infinitely, and we are willing to continue defending her and to lead her down safe paths of peace.
So on one side, there is a US president. He says Maduro must go. On the other side, there's a Venezuelan leader. He says he's not leaving. And between these two positions, there is a standoff taking shape. This story is no longer about drug trafficking. It never was. This is a test of power, a test of political will, a test of who will blink first, and a test of how far both sides are prepared to go. It is a period of churn in South Asia. Regimes are falling, leaders are fleeing, old equations are evolving. In this tumultuous period, you have two options. Either you adapt to the churn or you stay put and lose out. Seems like India is considering the first option. It is adapting. Last night, Prime Minister Narendra Modi posted a surprise message, a message for Bangladesh's Khalida Zia. Khalida Zia leads the BNP, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party. In the past, they have worked against India's interests. But now Khalida Zia is 80 years old and ailing. She was admitted to a hospital in Dhaka last week, so Prime Minister Modi sent her a message. Let me quote from his post. Deeply concerned to learn about the health of Begum Khalida Zia, who has contributed to Bangladesh's public life for many years. Our sincere prayers and best wishes for her speedy recovery. India stands ready to extend all possible support in whatever way we can. I know it sounds like basic courtesy, but there is more at play here. There's geopolitics, history, and strategy. Let me tell you why. India is not the only one sending wishes to Khalida Zia. China has flown a team of doctors to Dhaka. They are supervising her treatment. Turkey, Russia, Pakistan, South Korea, all of them have sent similar messages to Khalida Zia, which makes you wonder why. Courtesy aside, her party is a power to reckon with. Sheikh Hasina's party, the Awami League, is banned. So the BNP is the largest political party in Bangladesh today. And this is a country that is heading into elections. They will hold elections in February. The BNP is expected to do really well in that election, maybe even form the government in Dhaka. Hence all the focus on Khalida Zia. If her party wins, if the BNP wins, her son is expected to be Prime Minister. And India knows this too, which is why Prime Minister Modi posted this message. The question is, will this outreach work? Will it lead to a reset? Well, the BNP has reacted to Prime Minister Modi's message. Let me quote again. The BNP expresses its sincere gratitude to the Honourable Prime Minister of India for his thoughtful message and kind wishes for the speedy recovery of BNP chairperson Begum Khalida Zia. The BNP deeply appreciates this gesture of goodwill and the expression of readiness to extend support. Again, very businesslike. But if you put this in context, a picture emerges. The picture of a possible reset. It is true that India was very close to Sheikh Hasina, but the BNP is not an unknown commodity. Prime Minister Modi met Khalida Zia in 2015 when he visited Dhaka. It was a rare outreach to the Bangladeshi opposition. And after Sheikh Hasina was ousted, the outreach continued. In September last year, the Indian High Commissioner met BNP leaders. Afterwards, the party said that the ice was melting. Cut to 2025, Prime Minister Modi is wishing Khalida Zia. Clearly, there is an attempt to reset ties, and frankly, it makes sense for both sides. For India, options are shrinking in Dhaka. Sheikh Hasina's Awami League has been virtually wiped out. The interim regime is hostile, and the Islamist Jamaat is out of question, which leaves us with the BNP. And for the BNP, India is a good partner to have, a reliable, stable, and prospering neighbor. Abusing India may get you votes inside Bangladesh, but the reality is Dhaka needs New Delhi. Just look at what happened in the Maldives. Their president campaigned on a platform of India out. That was his pitch, India out. But once he came to power, he warmed up to India. That's simple geographical reality, and the BNP probably realizes this. Unlike Muhammad Yunus or the Jamaat, They have actual governing experience. They know what it takes to rule in Dhaka. So on paper, a reset does make sense. But will it lead to something strong? Frankly, that's harder to say because there is a lot of bad blood here. The BNP has trashed Bangladesh's treaties with India, whether it's the Friendship Treaty of 1972 or the Ganga Water Treaty in 1996. Under their rule, rebels in northeast India were emboldened. Weapons would be smuggled from Bangladesh to India, and Khaleda Zia spearheaded this policy. Consider what she did in 2013. Then Indian President Pranab Mukherjee was visiting Dhaka. He was slated to meet Khaleda Zia during this trip, but Zia called off that meeting. So like I said, there's a lot of bad blood here. Having said that, 2025 is not 2013. Bangladesh is entering a new political reality next year. A lot hinges on the result of the February election. The BNP's first priority will be to win that election. A reset with India is secondary for them. Now let's talk about your salary. Every year, when appraisal season rolls around, everyone asks the same question. Will my salary go up and by how much? Especially if you're in your first job. But here's the harsh reality. Some of the biggest companies in the world have not raised salaries or starting salaries in years. We're talking about giants like McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group, and Bain. And they're freezing increments. The reason is the AI boom. Artificial intelligence is doing the work that fresh graduates were hired to do. Stuff like research, data analysis, even building slide decks. Machines are doing all of it. So companies are hiring fewer people. In some cases, they're cutting entry-level jobs altogether, and that means fewer openings and a tougher climb to the top ranks. So if you're entering the job market, your qualifications alone will not be enough. You need to be AI-proof. That means learning the tools, understanding the tech behind it, and building skills that machines cannot replace easily. Here's a report.
It's happening quietly, but it's changing careers before they've even begun. For the third year in a row, top consulting firms are freezing starting salaries. The likes of McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group, and Bain & Company. Even the Big Four, Deloitte, EY, KPMG, and PwC, have held pay flat since 2022. Why? Because artificial intelligence is reshaping the business model, and it's challenging the very structure of the consulting world. At the heart of this is the pyramid model. It's how consulting firms have always worked. Hire thousands of fresh graduates, build a wide base of junior staff, then promote a few to the top. But now, AI is disrupting that base. Firms are reporting real productivity gains from AI. They're doing more with fewer analysts. Data crunching, market research, even PowerPoint slides, all being automated. And that's putting pressure on entry-level hiring and on pay. New job offers from firms like McKinsey and BCG confirm the trend. Starting packages in the US remain unchanged. Roughly $135,000 to $140,000 for undergrads, and $270,000 to $285,000 for MBA graduates. Firms say the cost of talent is rising, but instead of adding headcount, they're turning to machines, and that shift is reshaping the pipeline. PwC has already slashed graduate hiring in 2025. It had planned to grow its global team by 100,000 by 2026. That target is now officially off the table. Firms are also cutting jobs. PwC dropped 150 back-office staff in the US. McKinsey laid off 200 in IT. Accenture trimmed 11,000 roles in just 3 months. Those who can't adapt to AI are being let go. Inside the firms, the model is shifting. Some call it the obelisk, a thinner version of the pyramid. Others say it's becoming an hourglass, with fewer mid-level staff as AI fills the gap. One firm, Alvarez and Marsal, backs a box model. It means fewer junior hires and more experienced professionals from the start. The logic is simple. AI can handle the basics, but clients still want experience and judgment at the top. For many firms, this is now the new selling point. Clients are asking tough questions. How are you using AI? Are you applying it to your own teams? Firms that can't answer risk losing credibility. Even skeptical clients want to see proof. So consultancies are racing to modernize, not just to boost profits, but to survive. But there is no consensus yet on the end game. McKinsey says it still plans to hire more graduates in 2026, up by 12%. Others say junior jobs will shift, not vanish. There will be new roles, ones focused on managing, curating, and auditing AI systems. But the gap in the middle may grow first before it closes, just like it did during the Industrial Revolution. So what does this mean for young professionals? It means the career ladder is getting narrower, and the first rung is harder to reach. AI may not have killed the pyramid yet, but it's already frozen the pay. And now, it's starting to shrink the base. That's the quiet shift happening inside global consulting. And it's only just begun.
Here in India, the big story is a mobile application. One side says it will protect you, the other says it will snoop on you. It's the classic surveillance or security question. Let me introduce the app first. It's called Sanchar Sathi, meaning a communication companion. This is a cyber security initiative of the central government. Its goal is to strengthen digital protection. Say someone sold you a fake mobile phone, or a stolen mobile phone, or someone hacked your mobile devices, then Sanchar Sathi can help you out. Think of it as a helpline/cyber complaint hub. Sounds good, doesn't it? So where is the controversy? Well, yesterday the central government issued a new order. It has 3 main points. 1, all smartphones sold in India must have Sanchar Sathi pre-installed. When you buy a new phone, it comes with certain apps like the camera app or the phone app or the gallery app. The same will apply to the Sanchar Sathi app. It will come with your phone. It must come pre-installed. Number 2, the Sanchar Sathi should not be hidden or restricted. It must be readily visible after the setup. And finally, number 3, existing phones should also have this app. Makers have been asked to provide it through software updates. Now, don't be surprised if you get one soon, because all of this must be completed within 90 days. The government is moving fast. But the opposition is not impressed. They say the app is not meant for security, it is meant for snooping. Some leaders compared it to North Korean surveillance.
It is a snooping app. I mean, clearly, it's ridiculous. Now, where else do they want to, citizens have their right to privacy. Even all of you must be having a right to privacy to send your own messages to family, friends without the government looking at everything.
देखिए, सरकार हर एक के मोबाइल में क्या खोजबीन करना चाहती है? ये जब लोकसभा में ये सरकार उसी तरह बनाना चाहती है। कोई कोरिया में ना वो एक क्या है वहाँ के नॉर्थ कोरिया के वो किंग जॉन्ग, कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं है सरकार किंग जॉन्ग के रास्ते पे चल रही हो?
Those are serious charges. The government has responded to them. They say the Sanchar Sathi app is not mandatory. Yes, you will get the app pre-installed, but you can delete it if you want.
इसके आधार पर ना कोई स्नूपिंग है, ना कोई कॉल मॉनिटरिंग है. अगर आप चाहते हो तो इसको आप एक्टिवेट करो. अगर आप नहीं चाहते तो इसे एक्टिवेट मत करो. सुनिए ना, अगर आप इसको अपने फोन पे रखना चाहते हो तो रखो. अगर आप इसको डिलीट करना चाहते हो तो डिलीट करो.
So if it's optional, but if I install this app, what am I signing up for? Can it read my messages? Can it access my phone log or personal data? Again, the government says no, it cannot. And their argument is this. A lot of people do not know about the Sanchar Sathi app. They do not know about the protection it offers, hence the push for pre-installing it. The idea is to make people familiar with this application. But the optics, well, it's clearly not going down well. Safe to say we need more clarity on the rules. For example, the order says this app should not be disabled, that its functions should not be restricted. Then how can users delete it? Same with software updates. Can I update my phone without this app? Or should I download the update and then delete it? These are questions yet to be answered. Having said that, this is a problem worth looking at. India has 1.2 billion mobile users. But our digital literacy is only 37%. Scams and digital fraud are quite common. Just look at some numbers from a crackdown last year. The government disconnected 11 million mobile connections, 11 million, around 50,000 fake handsets, 1.1 million fake WhatsApp accounts, and they also blacklisted 71,000 SIM sellers, all because of fake documents or fake devices. This tells you the scale of the problem. We have a massive underground mobile market of stolen devices, of forged documentation, and of counterfeit phones. It is important that we find a comprehensive way to tackle this. How to do it is up to our policymakers. Maybe Sanchar Sathi is the answer, maybe it's not. It's up to the parliament, it's up to the government to find the right solution. Our next story is about a mountain range that holds up North India. It's a range most people do not notice at all, but one that protects Delhi and its neighboring regions every single day. I'm talking about the Aravalis. They're an ancient line of hills that runs from Gujarat to Delhi. They block desert winds, they slow dust, hold groundwater, and keep entire cities from turning drier and hotter. But this natural shield is at the center of a new flashpoint. The Supreme Court of India has approved a new definition. A definition of what? Of what counts as an Aravali hill? This one rule decides what is protected, what is not protected, and what can be opened up for mining. Environmental groups have raised concerns. The government says the definition brings clarity, but the real question is, how far is India willing to push a fragile landscape for development? Here's a report.
These are a mountain range that most people hardly notice. It is a line of hills that looks ordinary from a national highway, but it plays an extraordinary role in North India. These are the Aravalis. Aravalis are an ancient chain that runs from Gujarat to Delhi. It crosses Rajasthan and Haryana. It slowly winds from the Thar desert. It traps dust. It stores groundwater in fractured rocks. And it supports plants and animals that survive only in dry zones. For years, this range has been shrinking. Mining has carved out chunks of it. Urban expansion has pushed into its scrub forests. Entire hillocks have vanished in some districts. And more than a dozen gaps now lie open in the range. Into this fragile setting came a major decision. Last month, the Supreme Court approved a new definition for what counts as an Aravali hill. The definition came from a technical panel of the Environment Ministry. A hill counts as Aravali only if it rises at least 100 meters above the local relief. Two such hills within 500 meters of each other form a range. Along with this, the court ordered a new management plan for sustainable mining. The entire Aravali belt must be mapped. Sensitive zones must be identified, and clear rules must be created for what can be mined and where. Until this plan is ready, no new licenses can be issued. The definition, however, has sparked concern. Media reports citing Forest Survey of India data say only a small share of the hills meet the 100-meter rule. Most of the lower ridges fall outside this height. These smaller ridges are spread across Rajasthan, Haryana, Delhi and Gujarat, and they contribute to the region in different ways. Some act as ground-level barriers that slow sand from the tar. Some support vegetation that prevents soil erosion. Some sit above aquifers that supply towns and farms. And some from the only remaining corridors between scattered wildlife habitats. What happens when these are excluded? Environmental groups say their exclusion could widen the existing breaks in the range. They caution that dust movement into the plains could increase, and water-stressed districts could lose natural recharge points. Government officials present a different view. They say states have used varied definitions for years, and a uniform elevation rule finally creates one standard. They also point to the mining freeze as a safeguard, and say the upcoming plan will clearly identify areas that cannot be disturbed. But the question now is bigger than a definition. It is about what happens when a natural shield starts breaking, and how far India is willing to push a fragile landscape in the name of development. Because once a ridge is altered, the damage cannot be reversed easily. And every gap opened in the Aravallis changes how wind, water, and dust move across North India.
Now let's talk about the WHO, the World Health Organization. It has dropped a new directive this week. It has recommended using weight loss drugs to treat obesity. And this is a big shift for the UN Health Agency. Until now, WHO guidelines have focused on exercise and diet. That's what they have recommended for obesity. But now it's GLP-1 drugs. So why has the WHO taken this position? What does it mean for us? Why is this significant? And what are the risks? Let's break it down. First things first, what are GLP-1 drugs? These are named after a hormone in the human body, the glucagon-like peptide-1 hormone, GLP-1. These drugs mimic that hormone. They slow down your digestion. They activate insulin production. They curb your appetite, and you feel very full after meals. So you tend to eat less, and then you start shedding the kilos. That's how GLP-1 drugs work. But they were never meant to be weight loss miracles. These drugs were developed to help people with diabetes to regulate their blood sugar. But then scientists noticed that they also help people lose weight, so they started prescribing the same drugs for weight loss, and soon they became known as weight loss drugs. Now let's come to the WHO. What have they said? Well, in the past, the WHO has recommended a series of treatments for obesity. Most of it included diet, exercise, and counseling. But this time it's different. The WHO has added GLP-1 drugs to the mix. It says these drugs could be part of a long-term treatment that includes exercise and diets.
Today, we're issuing new recommendations on the use of GLP-1s to treat obesity in adults. These new medicines are a powerful clinical tool offering hope to millions. But let me be clear, medication alone will not solve the obesity crisis. Obesity is a complex disease that requires comprehensive lifelong care.
And why is this a big deal? Because until now, obesity was treated as a moral failure. If you were obese, you lacked discipline and self-control, you had to be regular with your exercise, and you had to eat less. It was a flawed approach, but that's what it was. Now the WHO has moved it into the world of medicine. They've categorized it as a disease which has life-threatening consequences. Does that mean it's an endorsement for drugs like Ozempic and Mounjaro? Well, not really. The WHO is waving a giant caution flag too, and for good reason. Right now, access is a big problem. Only a fraction of the people who need these drugs can get them. The supply is for about 100 million people. The demand is for 1 billion. Globally, more than 1 billion people are living with obesity. They all need help. Plus, the prices are sky high. In wealthy countries, 1 month's supply can cost as much as your rent. In lower income countries, it's even more. So the WHO is calling for equal access. It says companies should lower prices. Also, health systems are not prepared. Doctors need training, clinics need protocols, insurance needs policies, and every country needs a plan for who gets priority. Right now, almost nobody has figured it out.
Our greatest concern is equitable access. Without concerted action, these medicines could contribute to widening the gap between the rich and poor, both between and within countries. We must work together on strategies like pool procurement and tiered pricing to make these medicines affordable for all.
And then the part that everyone likes to whisper about. Are these drugs effective? Absolutely, they have changed lives. But they've also come with serious side effects. We're talking about things like stomach paralysis, blocked intestines, severe vomiting, gallstones, pancreatic inflammation. These cases are rare, but these risks are very real. People who took weight loss drugs, some people, and they ended up in hospital. Studies have found links between weight loss drugs and suicidal thoughts. They can cause depression, they can raise the risk of womb cancer and double the risk of eye damage in diabetic patients. And these are not mild problems, these are all medical emergencies. And then the biggest problem, you regain the weight, it comes back. It's the truth that your favorite influencer does not say out loud. When you stop the drug, most people gain the weight back. Why? Because GLP-1 drugs suppress hunger. They do not cure obesity. The biology remains the same. And this is why the WHO recommends long-term, possibly lifelong use. So what should you take away from this? GLP-1 drugs are powerful, effective, and scientifically legitimate. They can dramatically lower the risk of heart disease, diabetes, and other chronic conditions, but they are not magic. They are not risk-free, and they are not universally accessible. You need a doctor who knows your medical history. So yes, the WHO's move is a step forward, a big one at that. But like every big step in medicine, it comes with uncertainties. Our final story tonight is about a new phone from Samsung. It's called Galaxy Z Tri-Fold. It's a phone that folds twice. But the story is not about one device, it's about what the smartphone industry has become. For years, companies promised big changes like better cameras, brighter screens, faster chips. But the basics remain the same, and now in the name of innovation, we are seeing new shapes, phones that flip, phones that fold twice. So here's the real question. Is this a breakthrough? Or is this the last trick in a market running out of ideas? Here's a report.
Foldable phones once defined style. People flipped them shut to end a call. They snapped open with confidence, and they became symbols of the early mobile era. Then touchscreens arrived, the flip era faded, and phones all began to look the same. Now the foldable idea is returning, not as a trend from the past, but as a new direction for the modern smartphone. And Samsung's latest launch is one of the most ambitious steps in that direction. Samsung has unveiled the Galaxy Z Tri-Fold. It is the company's first multi-folding smartphone. It reportedly launches in South Korea on December 12th and is priced at about $2,450. It will roll out to China, Singapore, Taiwan, and the UAE before the end of the year, and it will reach the United States in the first quarter of 2026. To understand why this phone matters, we need to understand what foldables offer. A foldable phone uses a flexible display. The screen bends without breaking. It folds into a compact shape for daily use, and it opens into a larger device when needed. Some fold once, some flip vertically, and now some, like the Tri-Fold, fold twice into a tablet-style screen. The Tri-Fold uses two inward folding hinges. It opens into a 10-inch display. That is almost the size of a small tablet. It lets users open 3 apps side by side. It has 16 gigabytes of memory. It has 512 gigabytes of storage, and it charges to 50% in around 30 minutes. Samsung says this device reflects years of work on foldable engineering. But company is not operating alone. The foldable race is heating up. Foldables are expected to make up less than 2% of the global market this year, and Chinese brands are moving fast. Huawei has already launched 2 generations of tri-folding models in China. Honor and other Chinese companies have expanded into global markets. China has become the world's largest foldable market, and these brands compete on thinness, battery design, and price. Companies are investing in foldables for clear reasons. People want larger screens, they want more space for multitasking, and they want devices that stay portable. Foldables offer that mix.
I can unfold it.
For brands, they sit in the premium segment. They help differentiate products in a market where most phones look similar. But not all companies are moving at the same pace. Apple is taking its time. Reports say its first foldable iPhone will arrive only in September 2026. So the question now is simple. Is this what smartphone innovation has come to? Experts say the traditional smartphone has reached maturity. Yearly upgrades now feel incremental. But the basic idea has not changed for years. So companies are running out of room to make dramatic improvements, and that pressure is now visible in their design choices. Instead of reimagining the smartphone, companies are stretching their limits. They are adding more hinges, they are adding more folds, and they are turning a flat rectangle into a more complex design. Foldables are part of that push. While they look new and feel different, they aren't groundbreaking, and they also reveal how hard it has become to reinvent the smartphone. The industry is still searching for its next real breakthrough, but for now, this is the best the market has to offer.
December is a sneaky month. A, you never see it coming, and B, it goes by in the blink of an eye. We aren't the only ones saying it. Seems like the internet has also figured it out. When December starts, so do the preparations for Christmas, for the New Year, for the parties, and before you know it, the month is over. It's hard to explain in words, so we'll let the memes do the job. And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. Venezuela's Maduro grooves to his No War, Yes Peace remix during a rally. US First Lady Melania Trump appears in a new video showcasing White House holiday decorations. And Bolivia marks the start of Christmas season with the country's largest Christmas tree. Finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1971, the United Arab Emirates was established. It became a federation of 7 emirates that gained independence from Britain. More than 5 decades later, the tiny desert communities have turned into global trade and innovation hubs. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Caribe ni en Sudamérica. No. No war. Yes, peace. No a la guerra loca. No crazy war. No. ¿Cómo se dice en inglés? Please, please, please. Yes, peace.
They promised glory. They delivered fear. They shaped nations. They scarred generations. From brutal purges to propaganda machines, from stolen power to violent falls from the throne. Welcome to The Dictator, a series that strips away the myth and then exposes the men behind the tyranny. History remembers their power. Firstpost reveals their truth.